Jai Hind and Jai Hind and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Aadi. I have a special show for us today to understand the perspective of Taiwan with regards what China has been doing around its periphery in the oceans. The Taiwan Strait has been a piece of the earth or a mass of the earth that has been actually under discussion for some time now. Myself and General Shankar have actually taken up this discussion quite a bit. We've analyzed it within our perspective. We now thought as to what the Taiwanese actually think about what happened, how they're preparing for it, and how to take this particular discussion forward. To discuss this, I have with me Dr. Shenmin Che, who's from the National War College in Taiwan. As you can also see, General Ravi Shankar, former Director General of the Artillery, Namrata Hasija, who's a Taiwan expert from the Center of China Studies. Thank you so much for joining me for this discussion. I hope that we can make it as interesting as realistic as possible for us in India to understand the Taiwanese perspective. Thank you, all of you. Professor, I'd like to start with you first, sir. Couple of things that happened. Of course, this whole standoff is no big news. The Chinese put out a white paper on Taiwan, the reunification of Taiwan, Pelosi's visit, the Chinese aggression. How do you see all this sitting in Taiwan, sir?
Yes, according to a survey by the Taiwan Public Opinion Foundation, among Taiwanese over the age of 20 years old, there are 53% welcome Pelosi visit. Uh, Only 20% did not welcome Pelosi visit. And more, you can see that more than half of Taiwanese people welcome Pelosi visit to Taiwan because she is old friend, because she support Taiwan. And regarding the DRE or Li-Fi military exercise against Taiwan, the survey that 53 of Taiwanese people do not regret. We are not sorry. We are not regret that the policy visit to Taiwan has triggered the large-scale military exercise by CCP. But 34% think that they should have refused if they knew it earlier. Okay, 53 to 34. The survey about the attitude regarding China large-scale military exercise around the Taiwan Strait, there are 78% of Taiwanese people over the age of 20 years old are not afraid. We don't afraid of the China's military exercise, and only 17% are afraid. About the assessment that the effect of China military deterrence and promotion of the reunification, believe that the unification, they believe that exercise can increase the unification. Uh, Only there are 55% of the people that thinking about that the exercise and in terms of attitude toward the one China principle, there are 82% of Taiwanese people not agree that the one China principle of the CCP, only 8.8% agree. In worse, nothing that the 54 people said that do not agree with the one China uh, principle at all. And Taiwan's public opinion strongly opposed that the one China principle. And to sum up in a word, Taiwanese believe that this military exercise not cause trouble by Taiwanese. It's just an old friend support for Taiwan, and China used this uh, event to conduct a punish military exercise against Taiwan is an overaction, which do not make Taiwanese afraid, but recognize more than China real intention. And then Taiwanese people did dislike China more and more. So you can see that this survey is very important because in meaning, the meaning is China's military exercise want to scare Taiwanese is fair. This is a fair action. Thank you.
Sir, before I move to General Shankar, I'd just like you to comment on one small thing. Do the Taiwanese actually feel that China was successfully able to blockade Taiwan?
Okay, you can see from this exercise, they draw 6 to 7 exercise area, but this exercise area is for missile, not for the uh, navy, not for the air force, only for missile. And then in first day they launch 11 missile and then and close the missile test only 1 or 2 hours. So you can see even China also afraid of that the long-term exercise and broadcast will make a big effect or implication to regional security or the regional economic activity. So only 2 hours for launch missile. So maybe I think the quarantine, if there's a quarantine action, use a military um, exercise and missile launch, maybe it is successful. But if there is a blockade, long-time blockade, you cannot use missile to make a blockade. You only can use Navy ship to make a blockade. But it's fair. But we can see that maybe in the future, China will use this non-traditional military action, just like blockade, to surround Taiwan or blockade Taiwan. But right now, it's not only a few hours. It's not success.
General Shankar, sir, over to you. You know, you've also done a couple of interactions with Taiwan, and linking what you heard there and what Professor is saying here, what is the military derivative that you come out of this entire Chinese action, sir?
Well, first and foremost, good afternoon to all of you and to the viewers who are viewing us. And of course, good evening if there's anyone in Taiwan watching us. But I go with what Professor Shen Ming Tse has said. What has he said? That the overwhelming feeling in Taiwan is not to be with China, ever, right? And they're not worried about this whole drill. They're not too bothered about it. Uh, and I think, first and foremost, we must recognize the Taiwanese people have handled this entire event with calm equanimity, assurance, which is very good. And probably it is in fitness of things, they know the Chinese best. After all, they're part of the same thing. They know how the Chinese behave, and especially how the communists behave. That's one. Second, uh, look, yesterday, having said this, yesterday we had a webinar with a lot of, you know, well-renowned professionals from Taiwan and in India. And we discussed this military situation threadbare. The first thing which came out was that, look, everyone says Nancy Pelosi went on her own and all that. But there's also a view that USA has sent Nancy Pelosi there purposefully under a guise of that she is doing a maverick action. And in doing so, they've actually provoked China. And China has fallen for the bait. And China has reacted in a manner that its lot of its military activities are now, in the open domain. They're not anymore, um, you know, what shall I say? Unknown factors, a lot of known factors, and a lot of Chinese tactics and their training and their capability and their communications, everything has opened up. And everyone has noted it, including Taiwanese. Now they know how China is going to behave. Well, some people will say, no, no, they might have behaved differently now. In actual thing, they'll behave differently. It doesn't happen that way. People don't forget experiences. So the Chinese, whatever they've done, they've done. The second part of the story is that when we analyze, we realize that China does not have the capability to carry out a complicated amphibious exercise and then get a beachhead and then start capturing Taiwan. Nor does it have the capability to do air envelopment. Like what Professor Shen did put across, missiles are for control. You know, you control areas with missiles. You don't capture areas with missiles. For capturing areas, you need soldiers, you need traditional guns, you need tanks, and all these have to put their foot down on Taiwan. Nothing has happened. If you notice in this entire story, not a single Chinese has put his foot in the Taiwan Straits water. It's all long distance. Now, I can fire 10 missiles anywhere I want in the world. That doesn't scare anyone. I can fly aircraft all over. It doesn't, scare anyone. Okay. So this is how it is. But what has China achieved? That's important. China has achieved a new normal, which will happen. That the median line is something which will not be, you know, respected like it was earlier. So there you will see hereafter a lot of violations of this median line, and they will keep the Taiwanese defense forces quite engaged. And sometime, when this thing keeps happening, it could become a case of cry wolf, and suddenly they might mount an attack. But then what I'm saying also has got limited value, because unless a PLA guy puts his foot in the water, he can't reach Taiwan. So there might be some aerial attacks, some other attacks, and all that. Next thing which came out, all the cyber attacks, electronic warfare attacks, all this I'm sure they've done, but nothing has happened. So the value of all this has been flattened out. If you take the experience of Ukraine and whatever has happened in Taiwan, we heard that the Taiwanese president's office was under cyber attack for 2 days or something like that. What happened? Nothing happened. So this business of cyber warfare, electronic warfare, this warfare, that warfare, all the new forms of warfare which were being made of big are all flat. So that part is a lesson for PLA, because that's what they were talking of: multi-domain warfare, economic warfare. No. The next thing is this entire business of blockade. You blockade Taiwan, you blockade yourself. Okay. If you blockade, put a block around Taiwan, which are the ports which will get blocked? Right from Shenzhen right down to Hong Kong, every port will get blocked in China also. So it's an auto blockade of themselves. That's what they would have realized. And if you notice, they didn't do any firing in the Taiwan Straits. They fired either side, north or south or behind. Right. So the whole story is that this business of missile warfare is an unreliable warfare. I mean, when I say unreliable warfare, these are weapons of deterrence. These are weapons of control. These are long-range vectors. They don't win wars for you, right? They're good for grand strategy, but actual thing is something different. But one interesting thing is there, that PLA would have learned a lot of these things, like you and I are discussing. Even PLA would have discussed. Even Taiwan will discuss. As much as PLA will now start preparing for an actual eventuality, having assessed what the problems are through the simulations, AI, and all that nonsense, Taiwan also would have assessed what their problems are. That's why I said PLA has exposed its own tactics. So now Taiwan will get prepared. It has also triggered Japanese trying to deploy missiles. That's the latest news, that they would like to deploy. And it is also, very clearly USA and Taiwan are now going to go in for enhanced, military cooperation between Taiwan and USA, and there's also trade. So that means Taiwan is going to get hardened. And Taiwan now realizes, I'm sure everyone realizes in Taiwan, that they have to defend themselves. One day they have to defend themselves. Till now, there was reluctance amongst the Taiwanese youth to join the army and to carry out the reserve status XYZ. But if after this, I think there will be a change. More and more people will say, okay, I'll join the reserve forces, I'll do my duty fully, and even if it's extended, it is. Because otherwise, let's be very clear, if you think that PLA will not attack at all, one day it will attack, and if Taiwan is not prepared, it will be run over. Okay, so we should not have doubts about it. A lot of this sound and fury put on by PLA is to save their own face. You know, they lost face when Nancy Pelosi landed up. No less than Xi Jinping told President Biden that he warned them and said not to come. But she came. What could they do? Nothing. There was a lot of media thing that saying, don't let that plane land. If that plane lands, PLA will shoot it down and all that. In media, that Global Times chap, Zhu, who Xi Jin or whatever, he's put it out, right? And nothing happened. So the Chinese got an egg on the face. Okay, now to save that, they've done all this. But in doing so, they've been drawn out and they've exposed themselves. And most importantly, for hardcore military professionals, the limitations of PLA have come out. Also, limitations of Taiwan have come out. So it is for both countries now to take a call as to how they should behave. PLA is very clear, they want to annex Taiwan one way or the other. But Taiwan has to be clear as to how it wants to defend itself militarily and politically. Because the political angle is important in this, because the KMT one delegation went immediately. So I don't know what will be the fate of that delegation when it comes back. But if suppose this had happened in India, they wouldn't be allowed to get back to India.
Be
That
coming
I'm very
back.
okay. Yeah, they wouldn't be allowed to come back to India
They
if
won't
this
be coming back.
if someone goes with a delegation to Pakistan to speak to the Pakistan army, that fellow is a Pakistani thereafter for all of us. So, right. So, I don't know what will be this thing. I don't know how Taiwan will react. But this is my view, when we could discuss with more questions as we go along.
Right. Namrata, moving on to you, you watch China very carefully. This particular thing was followed up by the Bedai, which is important. And I'm sure Bedai, the biggest thing that was discussed apart from the economy would be Taiwan. How do you see the Chinese reaction to what has happened in Taiwan, apart from the jokes and memes that were put out by the Chinese themselves on basically, I think there was what, a face slapping campaign or something like that was made famous in Weibo. So how do you see the reaction of the people, the authorities in some way to this whole crisis that is taking place?
Thank you for the question, Adi. See, yeah, that's, it's very important because we've done the scenario buildings. I think Professor Shangming Shur and also Shankar sir has done that. But, even before this crisis, when the visit and whatever followed, within China, there is no unanimous, view on Taiwan. So that's something that we have to keep in mind. And I'm talking about the elite here, the Chinese elite that decides things. That, they are, of course, one thing is clear that all of them say that we have to reunify Taiwan. That thread is common. But how to do it has been very different. It's not that even within China, all of them say, okay, let's go attack Taiwan. No, it's not like that. Even when this, thing, this whole, event was unfolding, even at that point of time, this the youth league of the Communist Party, they, said something very sensible and also very different from, what was being said on Weipo and other platforms. So they actually said that we should, that the Chinese should actually exercise restraint and not sacrifice the entire chessboard for Taiwan. Of course, they were looking at the larger picture for themselves, for the Chinese, that is the US China relation. So they said that just because of Taiwan, we should not sacrifice this China US relationship that we have built over the years. So they said that, of course, when someone pokes the Chinese with the Taiwan question, they feel the sting. However, the US and China should not let the situation go out of hand and embark on a military confrontation, sacrificing years of effort building of strategic partnership. So this is coming from the youth of Youth League of the Communist Party, which is otherwise a very aggressive, wing of the party. So even within, if you see, many of the retired PLA veterans have also said that we have no capability of taking Taiwan by force. And one of the academicians who is directly under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, he said that rather than for forceful reunification or a military reunification, we should go for a smart reunification. We should kind of try to entice our comrades on the other side, and slowly kind of have this peaceful reunification rather than for going a military confrontation. So if you see over the years, even after Xi Jinping has unleashed this aggressive foreign policy within the Chinese elite, there is no consensus on Taiwan. I'll take you back to this very important article that was published in July 2021. It was published in the Chinese magazine Naval and Merchant Ships. So it is a military strategy magazine. So they published a detailed outline, of a three-state surprise attack that could pave the way for assault landing on Taiwan. And then there was also a video that was posted on Weibo with the message that we warned the Taiwan independence people that it will only lead to a dead end. But simultaneously, on the same this thing, another article was published where it said that mainland China was in no position to take Taiwan by force. Firstly, of course, the domestic political risks are very high because Xi Jinping is already on playing on the back foot. And secondly, of course, the 20th Party Congress is coming. So Xi Jinping needs a very stable domestic political environment. So, completely they said there is no way that China could lead a full scale military attack. So, when it comes to the Chinese opinion, that they are also divided. It's not that even see they have to follow the line what Xi Jinping says. So the cadres and the present political commissars would definitely say yes, yes, military reunification. But if you see the layers within the Chinese elite, not all agree for a military reunification, and they have warned Xi Jinping time and again that we are not prepared, we don't have the capability, and neither should we go because then we will be put in a corner by the world. I think so. That's how the Chinese look at it.
Thanks, Namrata. That's, I think, very incisive, and it'll build on my next question. Professor, you in Taiwan, when you hear words like this from Namrata, and I'm sure you've got a deeper insight as to what is the reaction within China, why don't you help us understand how the Chinese have reacted to the Taiwanese resistance, and not really, if I may use it very loosely, not really giving a damn about what China was able to do, because as a propaganda narrative, I could see these people dancing in the streets of Taipei. They actually took it a step forward and said, our military is doing what it's doing. We are going to still enjoy our life and have fun. There's nothing happening in Taiwan. Looking at that and looking at what's happening within China and what Namrata said, sir, your opinion and your analysis as to how this whole thing has affected the Chinese leadership.
Uh, okay, you can see that Chinese people reaction about this drill or about the Pelosi visit Taiwan. I think can uh, I conclude there are several reactions about this. The first one is a hawkish and nationalist view, which believe that the United States and Taiwan should be warned. It should be warning U.S. and Taiwan, and otherwise Taiwan and United States will expand these two countries' international cooperation or even the Taiwan sovereignty by salami way. Maybe and then you don't give them the warning. Maybe Taiwan and United States will have a close military cooperation and even a defense agreement. This is the first point. The second point is the more rational point. Is as a matter of fact that believe that it's not necessary to provoke a conflict between United States and China. If China cannot win against the United States war now. The third point, because it cannot compete with the United States, so it is necessary to return to the strategy of peaceful reunification with Taiwan and not to breaking a war in the Taiwan Strait. We have seen that right now Xi Jinping's speech to Taiwan, okay, just the General Shankar mentioned about that the Taiwan Party KMT sending a delegation to attend a meeting in China. It all belong to that. China will allow KMT to send a delegation, not just Taiwan KMT want to see uh, uh, the official of the Guotaiban. Is China allow? Why China allowed this delegation? You can see, okay, it's from military unification toward peaceful unification. It's not China give up this way. It's because of in military way cannot win because United States will intervene Taiwan Strait because of Taiwan Relation Act. So before China had enough military capability in A2AD and stop the United States to intervene Taiwan Strait, I think China right now will still use the soft hand strategy that peaceful unification. And of course, we can see that uh, Taiwan has not met any radical claim, and because our President Tsai still insists that maintain the status quo, so that China has no excuse to mobilize troops to invade Taiwan. Uh, I think these response are not fixed, not changed. China will adjust to changing the circumstance at the time and right now, and Taiwan policy will be flexible. If China change their strategy from peaceful unification, and now China, Taiwan is already speed up our military build up and defense mobilization reform and prepare that the worst situation. Thank you.
Thanks, Professor. I think that's a very interesting take that you've taken. Janil Shankar sir, Professor mentioned something very interesting. Uh, he hinted about the the challenge of the Chinese leadership to actually carry forward their word. And I'd like you to take that and, of course, combine it with and we've discussed this on a separate show on the Wailing Chinese influence. Now, as I look at it, it there is an opportunity for Taiwan to kind of move forward. Of course, it's dangerous, uh, but there is an opportunity there. How do you think this whole game will play out? Because whatever said and done, the Taiwanese standoff, if I may use that word, and if I may just term it as that, is something which has touched a lot of people around the world that have been under the negative Chinese influence.
See, what the professor has said makes a lot of sense. And what you asked, if you put it together, a different picture emerges. Now, what is that? The first thing which has come out, and I keep repeating this, out of this entire live drill and this entire event is that China does not have the capability to capture Taiwan. So, if it does, it has to be an act of irrationality where it has been provoked into a military action. Okay, so let us see, will China do it? What are the risk of doing it? If let's, it's okay, it's very nice to say I'll win or I'll annex Taiwan. What if US joins in? What if Japan joins in? What if South Korea joins in?
Oh, I think there's a bit of a challenge. Right. Namrata, why don't you, give us a certain view about, we'll come back to General Shankar's question as soon as he's back with us. Let's talk about one of the biggest things again that we see uh, within China and within the debate between China and Taiwan is that the Chinese have somewhere down the line put across all their marbles in the same box. Today we see it is Taiwan or nothing, and to me that is
I'm sorry.
basically Okay.
Yeah,
So we are back.
as back.
I'd taken a
Yeah,
question with Namrata sir. After that, we'll come back to
yeah,
you.
yeah.
That's
We'll
okay.
do. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
all
yeah.
right. Fair
Yeah.
enough.
Only thing is, I don't have light at home. Okay.
No worries, sir. So,
Yeah.
Namrata, as I was saying, how do you see this particular situation? Because I think that the Chinese have basically now put themselves into a corner where the option, and especially referring to that white paper which has come out, where they are very clearly said that there is no other option. Looking at the 2005, so-called constitution amendment that they've got, and the kind of rhetoric that they built up across Taiwan, how do you see them getting stuck into this particular position?
See, that's what it is. When Xi Jinping actually came in 2014, and then with the party congress, the 18th party congress, and everything, the 19th party congress, the way he laid out the China dream, and the way he was, he has given these goals. He has given, a proper timeline. The first Chinese leader who's actually given the timeline. Now, within that, of course, the most important thing is the rejuvenation of the Chinese nation, where they actually talk about taking back the lost territories. And that is, of course, of direct consequence to Taiwan, to India, to South China Sea. Now, he's built all this. He's built a personality cult around him. He's built all this, even within the Chinese domestic audience and everything. Now, where to go? That's the problem. That's what I was talking about. That that he really has to kind of. That's why he's been put into a corner, because if you read the comments on Weipo, if you read other comments, especially even when the Galwan Valley incident happened, when Doklam happened, he was questioned by his own public. Doesn't have that capability. Even when the Galwan Valley happened, that is the same question was actually asked. So, so that okay. So so that is the reason why he's. Other than that, he's also facing a lot of opposition now with because you've spoken about the Taiwan, the white paper on Taiwan. It talks about reunification, but it also mentions peaceful reunification. This is brought out at a time when China is having these activities all around Taiwan, and they still talk about peaceful reunification. So it is like himself into a corner. And again, the question that I ask again and again is, does he have the political will to actually attack Taiwan? Right now, I don't think he has that political will, and especially not before the 20th Party Congress. After 20th Party Congress, I feel the next 3 years we have to kind of wait and watch the actions, what happens, because like Shankar sir said that in a moment of irrationality, when he feels that he's totally kind of, he has no other option, he can try something with either Taiwan or India. So that moment maybe may come after 2 3 years, at least not now, because he has really consolidated his position when it comes to the 20th Party Congress. He's definitely coming back in the 20th Party Congress. He will not want anything right now, but it all depends on the domestic situation. Like I said, it does not depend on any other thing. There are two things that will keep that is a deterrent. One is the US action, US intervention, that he knows will happen in South China Sea and Taiwan if he does something. And the second, of course, is the domestic politics, because he has built this whole personality cult where he's shown this. After Mao, he's the leader. If you go to China, I went to this party school in Shanghai. It's only Mao or Xi Jinping's quotes, only his video or Mao's video. It's like China had no other leader. So the kind of personality cult he has built is, of course, now this action actually shows that how they overreacted, because Xi Jinping had no other way. Even then he was criticized, even within the party. said so many things when we heard about this visit. Why are we not doing it? So all these things we have to keep in mind when we are
I think for some reason your thing is going mute again, Namta. Yeah, we're okay.
No voice.
Yeah, we can't hear you. Uh, why don't you just try and reconnect one time? I think let's try and do that. General Shankar sir, let's come back to what you were talking, and we were trying to make a connection between the Chinese failing influence and
Right.
the Taiwan standoff and how things have actually going to go forward with after that, sir.
Yeah, where I left off, let me put it again. I'll rewind and so that you see, the fact is that uh, what has been proven is getting across to Taiwan and PLA annexing Taiwan militarily is virtually out of the question, right? Unless there's an act of irrationality and something happens, and if you annex Taiwan, it's all good, you know, first class. But what if you don't annex Taiwan? The $1 million question comes then. Can you, what shall I say, withstand that loss? If PLA is not able to, if PLA is not able to get across to Taiwan and it gets defeated in water, then can Taiwan declare independence? What will be the international face of China in case of a defeat? The risk factor of this entire thing is very high. So if the risk is so high, I don't think Xi Jinping will take it because he's generally been a risk-free man.
Hmm.
He will not do anything unless there is assured, success out of the whole story. And in this case, there's no success. The next thing which we came out, Namrata spoke of Professor She had said. No, he's put some timelines. Which leader in the history of mankind has put timelines on success of a nation? And which nation has succeeded as per a timeline? Never. The markers of success are failing today. Their economy is at its worst in years. There is no way they can achieve those figures. And with the aging population and a declining population, even today as we speak, there's no power. Yangtze River is dry. You don't have power, right? Your exports have gone down, your consumption has gone down, you have a real estate crisis, you have your banking is under stress, your BRI is collapsing, all your mega plans are collapsing, and you don't have any, uh, you know, any other solution but to invest more in infrastructure through debt, which has brought you here in the first place. So his and that China dream, rejuvenation of the great Chinese nation, is going down. Okay. So in this kind of a thing, I don't know whether China for the next 5 to 10 years will ever attempt getting across militarily, across Taiwan. But it will try the political thing. It will try political reunification. It will try peaceful reunification. It will try smart reunification, like what Namrata was mentioning. All those stunts they'll try. But this particular event has hardened and moved the Taiwanese away from the Chinese. Why should the Taiwanese go and join the Chinese? After all, the per capita income of every Taiwanese is about 2 to 3 times that of Chinaman. He's got democracy. He can speak what he wants. He can do what he wants, go what he wants. Why will he give it up and go and join the communist? Who will take everything away? And they have the regressive and the repressive model of Hong Kong in front of them. What happened to Hong Kong? Okay, you think all the Taiwanese want to become Hong Kongers? After all, everyone from Hong Kong who were part of the rebels or the democratic movement all came to Taiwan, most of them. Okay. So I don't think this story will go anywhere. In fact, the other way, I see a stronger Taiwan emerging now. I also see a weakening China, which has to take care of itself. Right? That's the future. And it is in this paradigm we have to understand where we stand as India as a nation. Like what Namrata said, a very important thing that if Xi Jinping and his declining economy cannot handle Taiwan, he will come towards India. Because these are the two main disputes he has. So if he comes to India, what do we do? How do we prepare ourselves for this eventuality? Is the question in front of us. And that is what we need to address internally.
Thanks, sir. I think that's a very incisive, thought. Professor, I'd like to come back to you. We've basically now covered what's happening within Taiwan. We've covered what's happening within China. We've covered Chinese failing influence. We've talked about the Chinese military. So this, we've kind of looked at it from all different angles. Now, just to close this particular discussion, I'd like you to kind of focus on a little thing, wherein what has Taiwan now learned from this particular experience, militarily one. As part of being a part of the world community too. uh, what kind of support did it receive from the world apart from lip service? uh, where does it see itself going with regards this entire game with China? Because this is not going to end. It's going to go on. As General Shankar said, they've created a new normal within the Taiwan Strait. Is there a change in national defense strategy that the Taiwanese will bring about, looking at this particular thing? And of course, your closing comments, sir.
Yes, General Shankar is talking about that China invade Taiwan issue. I think before I respond your question, I think we can think 3 points. One is the capability, one is the intent, and one is the timing. I think China right now have a military capability to invade Taiwan, but if United States intervene, China will not win the United States, even only support or provide target intelligence, something like that. I think China will pay a huge war cost if United States intervene. This is the first one. The intent, we know that unified Taiwan is a very big milestone to Xi Jinping in his dream of the great rejuvenation of Chinese people. So if the intent will exist for Xi Jinping, even for another leader of CCP. Uh, Unified Taiwan is a long, it's a historical mission to them. But the timing from breaking the war of Russia and Ukraine, and then someone will say that, oh, China maybe will take this timing to invade Taiwan because because United States and NATO are very busy in East Europe, in Ukraine. But when you see that Russia perform not well in phase one, defeat in phase one, and someone will say that China maybe delay or postpone its plan to invade Taiwan. So maybe 2024, 2026, or even 2027, because the second 100 year, because the PRA established in the 1927. So timing is very important, but that is symbolic timing. That is Xi Jinping, the timing of the Xi Jinping dream. If Taiwan isolated, don't have united support, or even our defense or military decay or down, maybe will provide that PLA a good timing to invade Taiwan. So I think this first one. And then how Taiwan counter or deterrence China's intent or military action, I think can divide it into three dimensions. The first one, of course, is a traditional way. It's a military way. Taiwan need to expand military deterrence against China. So the asymmetric warfare, and defense mobilization. And Taiwan national defense policy emphasized solid defense and multi-domain deterrence. That is say that Taiwan should throw the multi-defense way and barrier and make China to suffer heavy cost of war. And China will not easily uh, make a decision making for decision making launch war after the measuring the loss of the war. And Taiwan is currently preparing many long-range missile and submarine mobilization system reform and the training and preparing for the such a capability. So the first is the military way to make deterrent. The second is the economic way. China has mainly adopted economic sanctions on Taiwan recently, but it focused on agriculture or fishery product and will not impose comprehensive economic sanctions to Taiwan. Because of the comprehensive economic coercion or sanction against Taiwan, it will also have a significant backfire on China's economic development. Likewise, if China imposes a prolonged blockade on Taiwan, regional and global supply chain will be affected as well China's economy. Therefore, Taiwan must maintain our domains in the global supply chain and build economic deterrence with our strong economic power and capability. Taiwan right now is negotiating with the United States about the U.S. Taiwan 21st Century Trade Initiative. If it signed a free trade agreement with the United States, Taiwan's economy will build more advantage. The third way, and the last way, is the diplomatic way. China right now is isolated internationally due to the wolf warrior diplomacy and military expansion. If China take military action against Taiwan or bully Taiwan diplomatically, it will also make China face international sanction or boycott by international community. If the international situation change and Taiwan gain more international support, it will change Taiwan's diplomatic space or be recognized by more countries such as the current Eastern Europe country, and therefore Taiwan must strengthen our link with the regional country, especially cooperation of regional collective security mechanism, such as military cooperation between the United States, Japan, just like General Jaishankar said, or the cooperation with the country in the Quad, etc. Make I think this diplomatic way is even more important. And then very important thing is our great strategy. We know that our President Tsai still insist that maintain the status quo. This is very important. And then this policy will earn and get more support from the United States. But if PRA or if China invade Taiwan, okay, maybe that option, just like Shankar said, maybe, okay, if we defeat China's invade or attack or aggression, maybe that's the timing of to announce Taiwan independence. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Namrata, taking this to you, I think Professor hinted on something very interesting. I spoke to General Shankar about the Wailing Chinese influence. Now, Professor is talking about the increasing Taiwanese influence or the increasing Taiwanese reach. How would you like to take that forward along with your closing comments for this discussion?
See, I think Taiwanese reach, of course, has increased after 2020 when COVID hit the world. And I think Taiwan was the first nation to warn about it. And of course, it was not, nobody listened to it. The WHO also did not include Taiwan in the dialogue. I think that, was a starting point where we see, even I think within India also, if, like with people like us also, When I started working on Taiwan in 2012, there were hardly any people in India who would actually, even in the strategic community, we had very less discussion on Taiwan. But I think that has changed, and that's a very positive sign that we are talking about Taiwan, we are discussing about Taiwan, and Taiwan, we are putting Taiwan in the larger picture when it comes. So these positive things, of course, are happening, and I think Taiwan also has to build on it. I know in the sense that Taiwan needs more international attention. This visit has given Taiwan a lot of attention worldwide. But there have been also other incidents, like I think what Professor Shangmin Shir said about, China's wolf warrior diplomacy, especially during the COVID time. We see that they started targeting even, countries that were coming out and speaking openly about Taiwan, be it Lithuania, be it other countries, and but and Czech Republic, but all these countries have actually, it has backfired for China. And so Taiwan is doing a lot of, kind of consolidating its position when it comes to, especially with the US, with Japan. We have seen that 2021, Japan and US actually came out with a statement saying that if China does any, takes any military action, both of them will, help Taiwan. Of course, they did not specify how, they did not quantify how, but the statement at least, kind of gave an assurance, of course, to the Taiwanese that the US and Japanese Navy, of course, will back them when it comes to anything, when the Chinese do something here. So the Taiwanese, I have seen, especially the last 3-4 years, they have been building on it. They have been building on their. See, Chinese are trying to isolate Taiwan. We know a lot of diplomatic allies have, kind of. Stopped recognizing Taiwan after President Tsai Ing-wen took over. That was one of the ways that China was doing after Taiwan. That at one point of time there'll be no friends of Taiwan to speak in the UN. But I think all these actions have actually backfired. Now we have more people, more discussion on Taiwan, and we can take India's example. How many times did our national media actually discuss about Taiwan? And today there are more than 30 journalists, Indian journalists in Taiwan, reporting from Taiwan, and showing Chinese aggression to the world. I think this is a positive sign, and this is a positive thing for Taiwan. And from here, I think Taiwan also needs to build on it and consolidate its position more, because the more diplomatic support or the more support that it gets from country is something that is more important. That will be a deterrent. That will be a better deterrent. Of course, they have to kind of work on, I mean, they have to do the military thing, whatever that requires. But this diplomatic support is something that will be a deterrent. And I think the Taiwanese are working on it. And, I think, but still, I would say the next 3 to 4 years after the 20th Party Congress is something that both India and Taiwan should watch out for. I mean, that's something, that's a personal analysis. I feel that. Because see, we have already faced it in 2020, even before Taiwan. So everybody is focusing on Taiwan right now, but India has already faced that in 2020. So after the 20th Party Congress, I think the next 3-4 years is something that we need to watch out for, and we should not be relaxed. We should not feel that just because this happened, maybe what we are discussing, yes, the Chinese does, they don't have the capability or the political will, but we should not be relaxed. I think next 4 years is something that we need to watch out for.
Thanks, Namrata. I think that's pretty incisive. Uh, General sir, your closing comments, I'd request you to cover two things. One, Namrata mentioned the increasing Chinese influence, and of course, in the due course of the discussion, Professor also mentioned the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Uh, I've seen somewhere people discussing a commonality between both of them, and I personally I don't see it. Apart from just the factor of military aggression, I don't see the commonality in both the situations. So your comments on that, and of course, Professor also hinted on the factor that the Chinese have probably and I took this question up with Namrata as well, have boxed themselves into a corner now. So your comments on that, and of course, to close this discussion, Please take it forward, sir.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Adi. First and foremost, I think what you said is right. Box themselves in a corner, and the professor also made a mention of it. The Chinese have not only boxed themselves into a corner; they have got themselves isolated also. Today, China is one of the most isolated nations in the world, notwithstanding its economic capability, and that economic capability will not run away in a hurry, even if they decline. Right? They'll still remain one of the largest economies. After all, you're talking of a billion plus people. You can't wish them away, right? But they have nicely boxed themselves, right? Like I said, they it is possible. I mean, this is the thing which keeps coming back to me these days. This whole thing was triggered for China to react preemptively, prematurely, and now the cat is out of the bag. Now they don't know how to take it back. Okay, so they're in a corner, and plus the fact that their economy is not doing well, and Mr. Xi Jinping is, what Namrata said, he and Mao seem to be taking China back to the days of the Long March. So that's where they're going to go and end. Okay, now this business of waning influence is important. You just we'll spend 2 minutes on it because that's something which we've not touched. Internationally, Chinese influence all over the world is going down. They formed the 16 plus one in the Europe. Latvia and one more country have fallen out of it. Just
Lithuania.
Lithuania, they've fallen out of it. No, Lithuania was already there. I think Estonia and
Ah,
Latvia have fallen out of it. Okay. Now, for the first time, a German surveillance aircraft flew in the South China Sea. Of all people, Germans. Okay, it is something. These are all indicators of their isolation, right? The EU and when they spoke, it was the dialogue of the deaf as for the EU. Okay, now you see their influence in Africa, whether it's Zambia, whether it's Kenya. In Kenya, the presidential election between the two contenders was competitive or anti-China. Each were promising how they'll kick China out of Kenya. Okay. And I think Ruto has won by a small margin. They have some this thing, but that's a different story. But the fact is that China figures negatively across the divide. It's a bipartisan anti-China feeling. Angola, which had 3 lakh population of Chinese at the height of the reconstruction, is today all projects are closed. They just have 20,000 people. They've all said carry on. Angola was a jewel in the crown of Africa, Chinese crown. Same problem in Zambia. So you see that in Africa. Now, as far as our country goes, I mean, around us, you see what's happened in Sri Lanka. For the first time, you see, this Yuan Wang came to Hambantota. We all knew that it will come. But the fact is that Chinese had to struggle, defer the move, and then get it here. And then we are taking whatever action we have to take against it. Okay. So they have struggled to get a military craft into this area. Then you look at their thing in Pakistan. That CPC is going nowhere. You look at Myanmar. You look at Bangladesh, where the Bangladesh the finance minister said, "Don't take money from China." So if you see all this, you look at Malaysia, where Malaysia has gone in for the Tejas aircraft and they have said no to JF-17. You look at Indonesia, where Indonesia is going to go through the naval exercise shortly. It doesn't involve China, but it involves a whole lot of other countries. Okay, so you see within ASEAN there's a shift. South Asia there's a shift. Africa there's a shift. Europe there's a shift. Where does it leave China without influence? Okay, that economic influence will go that far, and as things go, the political influence will take over, and that's waning away. So, China is not only isolated, it is losing influence also, notwithstanding its internal problems. So, that's where China is weaker. And as you said, Taiwan is growing stronger. But here I have a different, I won't say different point of view, but an issue which I want to put across. There is a definite requirement for Taiwan and India to increase their relationship. What today it is there is just not enough. It's not good for Taiwan, it's not good for India. The reasons why this has not happened is also understandable. The fundamental reason is that Taiwan has always been aligned to USA and they've looked at Europe, right? They've looked at the region. India was not in their, eyesight. It is not in their periphery. But today's changed geopolitical conditions demand that Taiwan and India cooperate. Why do they need to cooperate? Because China wants, if China has bad relations with any two countries, it is Taiwan and India. And if India and Taiwan open two fronts, whether it's diplomatic, political, military, whatever, then China has to look two directions. It has to handle two hot coals. And that will happen only if there is a convergence between Taiwan and India, right? And that is something which, in fact, the article which I've written, which I hopefully should get published in Taiwan also, and it starts getting some traction, is about increasing Taiwan-India cooperation. I've gone to the extent of saying, what about going nuclear? The day Taiwan goes nuclear, China will keep quiet. End of story. Yeah, I'm talking of a big thing, but that's how it is.
Yeah.
Why? Look, we are talking real politics. Wasn't China the one who did proliferation to North Korea and Pakistan? Whether it's missile technology or nuclear technology? Isn't China the one which is stopping terrorists from being named in the UN? So there is no Baibandi in this. Isn't China coming and doing illegal things in Gilgit-Baltistan, which is our area, occupied by Pakistan? So if all this is happening, there are no morals at all. Strength speaks. Unless, and if Taiwan is interested in that kind of a strength, and I mean, you don't have to do it tomorrow. You don't have to do it day after. It's a start of a journey. I think India and Taiwan have to start on a journey on a common footing. Right? So far, whatever was there was good. I'm not saying it's not good, but tomorrow, I think you need to have a changed dimension. There's no point in talking, oh, Taiwan should do this, India should do this. I think what we should be discussing really is what can India and Taiwan do together. And you can start from non-political fields. You can start from non-military fields. You can increase diplomacy. You can increase people-to-people exchange. You can increase education. You can increase technology exchange. There's a lot which India can offer to Taiwan and what Taiwan can offer to India. Both are democracies. Right? So I'll end with this positive note that we need to increase Taiwan-India cooperation on a roadmap. Not just like that, aimless. It should be a roadmap. If that chap Xi Jinping can say by 2049 India, what China can be a superpower, I'm sure by 2049 India-Taiwan relations also can go to some level on a roadmap. I'll leave it at that.
Thanks, sir. That's, I think, a good close to the subject. And it's a point to mention that India is not really considered this. And why I wanted you to actually talk about the Russia-Ukraine war is because in India, the reality of Ukraine and what happened there was pretty much clear. And in India today, the reality of what's happening in Taiwan is also very, very clear. So India is actually, very clear in terms of what it stands for, and Taiwan being one of them. And you can see that amongst the population. You can see that, of course, the Ukraine flags and those little memes and all that came up for one day, and then when stuff came out, it all just went back down. But the Taiwan thing, if people have been interested, people have been wanting to know what's happening, people have been really uh, trying to figure out, because at the end of it, it's a common foe, it's a common adversary, it's a common ground that we both sit on today, it's a common fight, if I may. So as I was saying offline, I'd request Professor and Namrata to help us in kind of reaching out to the Taiwanese audience so that we can get our word there. And of course, if we could also participate and try and spread the Taiwanese word within India, I would be glad to do so. I have a small channel where I can feature articles, I can feature any talks, anything that, as per se. And it'll be great for our next sessions if we could have some more Taiwanese people joining in so that we can hear from them as well. Professor, thank you so much. Your views are always insightful, especially the view on China that you sit in Taiwan and have, and which is a, I think, although we have a land border touching, but you guys that 180 kilometers distance that you guys have is a lot closer than what we do because of the whole culture and language. So thank you so much for bringing that insight. Namrata, as always, it's a pleasure to hear from you and your views on the Bedaya and the whole leadership issues within China. General Shankar sir, with regards the whaling influence in China, the India perspective, and the world all around, and what China has made as a mistake in terms of its display of, I won't say military power, but I would say military, whatever it was. I fall short of a word at this moment because it was basically 11 missiles that were fired, and as confirmed by Professor as well. Thank you so much for all four of you to join me, to the audience that is there with us. I'm sorry we did not plan to take any questions. This was an impromptu live. We'll plan a little better the next time, and so that we can involve more people into this discussion. Thank you so much once again, and Jai Hind.
Okay.
Jai Hind.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Adi.
Thank you.
Thank you, General. Thank you, Matra.
Bye bye.
Yeah. Okay.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
Bye, sir. Bye.